welcome to another Tonic craft kit unboxing video. Today's one is for kit number 60. Can you believe we're on number 60 of the kit? That is insane that I've done videos for 60 months for different Tonic craft kits. That's gone by so quickly. But this one is called Time Spent with Friends, and it is a memory book kit. So it's going to give you everything you need to create one of the sort of bound memory books where you use ribbon to go up and down the little holes. I can't 100% remember what I've already said in this video because I filmed the end of it quite a few weeks ago now, and I'm just coming to film this first bit, so I'm really sorry if I repeat any ideas that I've already told you or ways to make the memory book and stuff, but hopefully it'll just kind of like reaffirm bits that I've said if I say it again later on in the video. So let's get on with the unboxing for this month's kit. So you can see we've got our lovely bag of goodies, but we have also got a new binder in this kit, so it's time for another binder for storing all of our kits in. But if you don't always get the kits but you have one of the binders, you can also store your designer's choices or the small showcases and stuff in them as well, because they just fit the A5 kind of pockets in there. So that is your lovely binder. We've had quite a few. I think this might be the 6th one in the new white colour now. So we've got a lovely decent collection in this gorgeous rebranded colour. So that's the binder. Then we've got our lovely bag of Nuvo goodies. So let's tip this out. And don't forget, keep your bag in case you want to use it for bits and pieces. I've got so many of these now. I still only actually used like one of them in that art journal ages ago. But I do still keep them just in case, because you never know when you might need a little bit of pretty starry paper. Although, you could actually... It's quite Christmassy actually, because it could be snow and stars. You could use this to decorate a gift box, or actually decorate your... memory book. It wouldn't particularly go with the colour scheme of this, but if you wanted to make another memory book and you've been saving your bags as well from different kits, you could just use this like a patterned paper and cut bits out of it. So that might be a nice use for using something like that actually. So let's have a look at all of the Nuvo goodies that we've got in here, and Craft Perfect goodies as well, because we have got a packet of their foam pads. So if you want to do a foam tape spine, I haven't done one for the memory book that I've showed. I did use the ribbon to bind it, but you can definitely do a foam pad spine, but they've given you foam pads, so you could do that kind of thing, or you could just use the foam pads to decorate the front of the book. Maybe you want to raise up the matte and layer and different elements and stuff. You've got your foam pads to be able to do that, and they are the inch square ones. So they're really nice, decent sizes, and you can trim them down to whatever size you need them to be, but they're a lovely large size to begin with, so you haven't got to peel the backing off of loads of little tiny ones, which is nice. So we've got a packet of those, and that is the white foam, not the black foam, because they do both now. Then we have got a full-sized Dream Drop, and this is the Moroccan Flame, which came out in the Harvest Moon colour trend. I love this colour. You can see, I mean, my bottle's been lying on the side, but you can see there's quite a big empty space in mine. I have used lots of this over, however, well, probably like a year since the colour trend came out, but I really like this colour. It's a really gorgeous colour tone. I will have shown you it multiple times later on in the video, so you'll see actual dried samples of it, and I decided to do, instead of doing it directly onto my memory book, I did it onto one of the Easy Clean mats that comes with your black media mat, and did lots of like scribbly, swirly kind of designs with it, so you will see that later on in the video. But there's so many things you can do with a Nuvo drop, and I have done a full video on the Dream Drops showing all of those different ideas that you can do with them, because the Dream Drop bottles are 10 mils bigger than any of the other drops. So they really lend themselves nicely to doing more techniques with them, because you have more in your bottle to begin with. And also don't forget, if you might not have seen my video, I did a video on the brand new fine tip nozzles that Tonic have just brought out to go on their glue bottles, but you can use them on all of your Nuvo bottles as well, and they work really nicely on your Dream Drops. So if you did have a spare one of them, maybe you bought a 2-pack and you've only used one, you could try it out on your Dream Drop as well. So that is the full-size Dream Drop bottle in the Moroccan Flame colour. Then you also get a spool of ribbon, because you can bind this book together with ribbon, and on my one that I'll show you later, to save ribbon, because this is a 9mm wide ribbon, you do get 5 meters on here, so you've got plenty to work with. But to save ribbon and to also give it that kind of rustic kind of look, I actually cut my ribbon lengthways down the middle, so technically I would have 10 meters of half cut ribbon. So I didn't cut the whole roll, I just cut off what I was using, but technically you could get 10 meters out of this roll if you did cut them in half, and it works nicely still. It doesn't fray too much. You do get that lovely frayed kind of effect, but it's not going to like completely unravel on you or anything. And I will just open this so that you can see up close the gorgeous ribbon as well. It's called Windsor Check, and this also came out in the Harvest Moon colour trend, but it's beautiful. You might not have got this actually when, if you did get that colour trend, the ribbons got released a little bit later. I don't think I had them to show in my up close video, but I did find them on the website a little bit after the actual trend had released, and I treated myself to them as well, because you never know when you're going to need a little bit of ribbon. And coming into autumn, this tied round the stem of a pumpkin would look fantastic. It's those perfect kind of autumny colours, so I think this would work really, really nicely for that kind of a project as well, if you don't want to use it on your memory books, or if you've still got lots left after you've used some on a memory book. And it also is really nice just for tying a bow to decorate the front of the memory book, or just to put on a card as well. I like to keep this plastic bit that comes on the actual spool, because you could put a little bit of tape on your ribbon to hold it in place, or you could put a pin in it, but if you put a bit of tape you risk it getting a little bit sticky, and if you put a pin in it, it kind of makes a little hole all the way through. Not that it matters so much on this kind of ribbon, because I think the hole would close up on this sort of a ribbon, but I just get into the habit of keeping that plastic piece and putting it back around it so that it all stays on there, it doesn't unravel in my drawer. So that is the spool of ribbon, 5 meters, and it's 9mm in width, and it's called Windsor Check. If you really like that and you want some more of it, they do still sell it on the website as well. Then we have these 3 full-size products as well. Let's go with this one first. This is the Nuvo Aqua Shimmer in Sunlit Sienna. It's a really beautiful copper effect. I've got my opened one here. You can hear there's a ball bearing inside. So when you get yours, you want to remove that yellow ring that's around there, and then the end of the brush is inside the lid, and sometimes you have to like screw it down first and then you can pull the lid off, but you basically just screw this down so that that gap where that yellow ring was is completely closed. You'll kind of hear a little pop noise as it goes through the valve that's in there and it opens it up. This just stops it from leaking in transit when it gets to you. But when you've taken that ring off and put yours together, you can open the lid, and then you'll see that there's no gap there. The whole thing is screwed down, and you can just gently squeeze where it says press there, and you'll get the product coming through the barrel of the pen, and then you can just easily watercolour with it. It's kind of, I wouldn't say the solution is clear. I think it has got a little bit of colour to the solution, and then it has that copper glitter in there. You can kind of see it better when it's dried, so I will leave a little swatch of this out, and I'll show you that again when it's dried later on. But that is the beautiful colour. It really doesn't look much when it's wet, but once it's dry it looks really lovely. And I was thinking, because this is this beautiful coppery kind of colour, I often like to use the glitter gloss to activate my watercolour pencils. I find it works really nicely. I feel like some of the having that little bit of glitter in there kind of helps move the pigment that you've drawn down with your watercolour pencils. And I think if you were going with a really like sepia sort of colour tone for autumn, this one, the Sunlit Sienna, might work really nicely for pulling out your colour. Or you know the technique, the really old technique of like stamping in a distress ink, or I suppose a distress oxide as well, and using a wet paintbrush to pull the colour out of the line work that you've stamped. You could swap it out for something like this as well, and give yourselves that beautiful sparkle as you're pulling the colour out too. So that might work really nicely as well. But again, there's so many techniques that you can do with your aqua flows, because this is basically like a glittery aqua flow. So if you have aqua flows from previous kits, you can make really cool backgrounds with them and drip in some of this. You can splatter with this, you can water it down even further and get a light sort of shimmery sort of effect. When you get further down this, like say to halfway, you can top it up with some distilled or deionized water and shake it up again, and you can make use of more of that sparkle that's in there, and have a slightly more dilute version of it. I tend to put a piece of washi tape around mine when I've done that so that I know that I've diluted it. But you have that mixing ball in there. I was going to say that earlier and then I got sidetracked, but you have a little ball bearing in there, so every time you go to use it, just make sure you shake it a little bit so you can hear that ball bearing moving, and then you know that all of the gorgeous glittery stuff is in the solution and you're not just using the solution and leaving the glitter in there. But if that does happen, just a little bit of distilled water in there and shake it up again, and you'll get all of that glitter back into solution and working again. So even though you might think this won't last long, you can definitely extend the life of it, which is nice. It's still not quite dry yet, that, but we will come back to that. I will show you that when it's dry so you can see what it looks like. Then the next thing we have is a Nuvo adhesive tape runner, and this is the Maxi version, which has solid tape inside it. We had the dotted one relatively recently, and this is 8mm in width, and you get 8 meters on here. I've got my opened one to show you as well. So if you've never used a tape runner before, you take off this little cap piece here, and then you can literally just run it along your card, and it just gives you double-sided tape but without the backing on it. So it's literally just putting down double-sided tape for you. You can use it in little dots and dashes to do little bits of tape. You can do full-on strips of tape. You can use this with your glitter, your gilding flakes, all sorts of different ideas. Maybe even your embossing powders. What I was saying in my colour trend video about having those embossing powders that have the multiple different size particles in them, you could try using this to apply your embossing powders in a strip as well, and still heat emboss on top of this too. But to know which way up is the right way, if you look on the bottom of it, it's just got little stripes to show where to put your finger, but that is the bottom, because if you flip it the other way, you have the little stripes, but you can also just about see, you can see it more in person, I think. It says top in the actual white plastic there, so you know that that is the top to hold it onto. I'll show you what this tape looks like when it comes out. So you literally just press down and then, oops, that was blurry. Sorry, it went blurry then, I'll do it again. So you literally just press down and then pull to like away from where it's going, sort of more towards you. And then if you're worried about it sort of getting a straggly end to it, if you just like pull it off sideways, you then get a nice straight edge to where you've pulled off that adhesive as well. So you can just about see that on there, and you can put your gilding flakes and foiling and all sorts of stuff onto this adhesive as well, just like however you would use normal double-sided tape you can use with this. And if you want to make it maybe slightly more temporary, maybe you're just using it to hold down a mask you've cut to mask off some stamping, or if you do some ink blending over the top of it, you can do like little tiny bits. You can just drag it along and then do that side flick to the side and get little tiny bits of adhesive, and then that would work in more of a temporary kind of manner because it's just holding in a few little places, and that could work for you know, when you've got a an image that you want to mask off but you don't have a post-it note that's big enough. You know, you could just do it on scrap paper and use a little bit of this on the back, and then it will work really nicely as like a temporary kind of thing. So you've got that in this kit. Then we've also got the Nuvo glue pen, which has got a large flat tip. I didn't think they still made this anymore, but they do still make it. And this is my original one. I've had this for ages and it's still going strong. But you can, again, use this for all sorts of different applications as well. And you can let it dry for a little bit and go a little bit tacky. It does give you instructions on here as well, which is nice. So shake well before use, apply on a smooth clean surface, press the tip down several times to release the glue, and excess pressure will result in uneven application. So you might get puddles if you press down whilst you're like drawing with it. Always keep the lid back on it, and you can clean it up with soap and water and it dries clear as well. So you don't have to worry about being a little bit messy with it. But it's got a really big ball bearing in it. And it's got a really wide flat tip as well, so you can get a really large coverage. I mean, I haven't actually used it on patterned papers, but I presume you could just use this to glue down your patterned papers. You know, just apply the adhesive onto there. It comes out in lovely wide stripes, and you could use that to get a lovely adhesion for patterned papers or for sticking two pieces of card back together. I'm thinking in like a memory book application, you know, how you might want to use it in this kind of project. you know, you could use it to glue large areas together, and it's a really nice strong glue. It does get to that tacky stage, and when it's in that tacky kind of stage, you can use your gilding flakes on this as well. I'm pretty sure I used this in a video years ago, because I feel like we got one of these in one of the very first kind of craft kits, and I think we may have had gilding flakes with it actually, and I feel like I used that in a video. But yeah, I'm sure you can use this for all sorts of different applications, and if you find, I think the tip would be a slightly off-white colour when you get it, but as you've primed it, it turns blue with the glue that's in there, and if you haven't got enough glue coming through, you can literally just pounce it like that, and you can see that it's kind of blue when it's wet, and then it goes clear when it's dry. And I think it is the kind of glue that actually stays tacky. So you might even be able to, I have deja vu of saying this before, you might even be able to use that wide tip to stamp with. So you could gently put this on your stamps and then stamp with it, and then you might be able to gild your stamped images with this kind of a glue as well. So do experiment with this, because I've not used this to its full extent. I've only sort of played with it now and again. I haven't properly like explored all the different things you can do with it. So do have an experiment and see what other things you can find out that you can achieve with this kind of applicator for glue. I actually really like the way I drew those stripes earlier. I don't know if you can see it, but the way it's given that kind of almost like a paintbrush kind of stroke. You could get some really cool distressed effects onto your projects. If you have the copper gilding flakes that Tonic do, it would work really nicely with this kind of colour scheme, and you could do some like stripes of this glue, wait till it goes tacky, put some copper gilding flakes on it as well, would look really lovely. This is dried now, so I will just tip that in the light. You can see that beautiful shimmer that happens on there. I do find with these coloured sort of shimmer ones that do have that slight colour to the background of them, using them on something of that kind of colour sometimes looks more effective. So we have a couple of sheets of card, I think we do, in this kit that it would work on too, or the patterned paper actually. Yeah, maybe the patterned paper. It would work nicely on top of the patterned paper. I splattered mine onto the patterned paper. That's why I hadn't used it on to white, and I hadn't thought to remember to tell you that. But yeah, if you use it on something that is the same sort of colour as this, or if you've done some colouring in this kind of a autumny, reddy, orangey kind of a colour, and then you put this on top, it looks fantastic. So if you don't like the look of it on white, try it on 2 different colours as well, and it would also show up with the glitter on black actually too. I've got a little scrap of black card here, let me just try that for you. Pretty sure it will. And actually, yes, on black, just the glitter will show up, because that background colour will kind of get hidden. So just the glitter would show up on black. I know that's not actually dry yet, so it's not sparkling, but you can see how just that glittery portion would show up. So definitely experiment with the Aqua Shimmer on different colours as well. So those are all of our Nuvo products that we've got in here. Then we've got the papers to show you, so I'll just move the box out of the way. And then we've got all of our papers in here. Now, because this is a memory book kit, they've been really generous with the number of sheets they've given you of the different types of card that they have chosen. So the colour scheme for this kit is cream, gold with the vellum, and then coppery kind of colours, and then we've also got patterned papers and a sheet of acetate as well if you want to give your memory book an acetate cover. So we have got 2 sheets of the smooth ivory cardstock, which is 300 GSM, and I use this for creating the main cover of my book, and I also did like a different sort of mini insert inside the book if I'm remembering correctly, and I use that for the outside portion of that as well. So you've got 2 A4 sheets of that, and the size of the memory book you can get 2 from each sheet, because obviously in a kit the die set is A5 in size, so you know that the largest page will be no bigger than an A5 sheet, so you'll be able to get 4 pages out of these 2 sheets, or the 2 covers and 2 extra pages. And then we're getting 4 sheets of the classic card, which is their weave textured card in ivory white. So that's got the texture on the one side and then it's smooth on the other side, so you can choose whichever side you want to face upwards. And because again the pages are going to be less than A5 in size, you should be able to get at least 8 pages out of this. Unless you're using some of the smaller dies, then you might even be able to get 4 out of one sheet. And depending how you like to make your memory books, or you know how you put it together, you might want to double up your pages, or you might find that just a single page of this with your patterned paper on is thick enough for you as well. But you do also have some specialty card later on that you can use to create pages too. So you're getting 4 sheets of that. Then you're getting 2 sheets of vellum. Now in my video that I did in the birthday week when we got that other memory book, I had used vellum in some sort of aperture pieces in my memory book, so it's quite nice to see that they've actually included vellum in this memory book one. So I think I did something similar to that in my memory book, or maybe I just made some pages out of vellum. I can't remember because I filmed it multiple weeks ago, but you'll find out in a little bit when Past Me tells you. But you've got 2 sheets of the, what's it called? Pearl Gold vellum, and this is the 100 GSM vellum, so it's a nice lightweight vellum, but it does work really nicely as pages. And I also did it as like an extra flip in front of a page as well, and I think I used it on the cover too actually to give that beautiful gold kind of effect. So you're getting 2 sheets of the vellum, and also it's nice if you haven't tried Tonic's vellum yet, or you've never tried pearlescent vellum, you can kind of give it a go and see what you think of it too. And you can heat emboss onto Tonic's vellum, and I'm pretty sure I did an up close video on their vellum, and I'm pretty sure I embossed it in embossing folders as well. So if you did want to add some 3-dimensional embossed texture, you could emboss your vellum as well. Sorry, my goodness me, my camera keeps going out of focus. It really doesn't like focusing on cardstock for some reason at the moment. Anyway, that is the 2 sheets of vellum. You're also getting 2 sheets of the double-sided pearlescent cardstock, and this is the Cosmic Copper, and this goes perfectly with your Moroccan Flame Dream Drop. Sorry about the focus, one sec. I just turned my camera off and on again, hopefully that's better. But it goes perfectly with the Moroccan Flame Dream Drop. They're sort of a lighter and darker version of each other. That Sunlit Sienna goes brilliantly as well. And the ribbon works really nicely with this Cosmic Copper too. So we've got 2 sheets of that, which you can use as pages, you could use it as your cover, or you can just use it to die cut decorative elements to go on your pages as well. And then we're also getting 4 sheets of patterned paper. I have been using mine, so I did only have 1 sheet to show you, but luckily they sent me a couple more of them. But you're getting 4 different designs, and these 2 on the back of each other and those 2 on the back of each other. So if you preferred one design over the other, you technically have 2 sheets, but they're just double-sided. So this one has got this kind of white background with a little 4-pointed kind of decorative element in a uniform pattern across the piece, and kind of almost like a diamondy kind of layout. And then on the back of that piece is this one, which is the sort of dark coppery, orangey copper kind of colour, with again that diamond kind of pattern but in fine little white stitches going across it. So depending if you want something lighter or darker, you've got the 2 options on that double-sided piece, because that is on the back of that one. And then the other piece of paper, which you're getting the 2 sheets of, on one side it's white with again this kind of diamondy pattern. It's sort of going through these patterned papers in that darker coppery kind of a colour. Really pretty design, really subtle kind of design. And then you're also getting this gorgeous heart one as well, which is the darker colour in the background and then white hearts all over it, again in a sort of regimented diamondy kind of design, which is nice. So everything really coordinates with your patterned papers, and you can choose the darker side or the lighter side depending what kind of project you're doing. And you've got 4 sheets in total, so even if you were making the largest memory book, you should have enough patterned paper to decorate 8 pages. But if you're frugal with your patterned paper, and also if you're frugal with your Cosmic Copper cardstock as well, you can cut your main panel to decorate your page from one of the sizes, and then you could cut your patterned paper from a slightly smaller size, but you could use another of the shapes to gut the middle of your Cosmic Copper cardstock, and then you'd have that shape to use somewhere else. And that's what I did in my memory book so that I could make it go further. And in my memory book that I made sure I didn't use more than what we had. So I the book that you will see later was only using the papers from the kit. I forgot to use the acetate in the end, and I think I had one sheet of patterned paper left over and a few little scraps. I think I showed you that actually, but yeah, so you really can make a lovely full-sized, well, a small full-sized memory book, because this is sort of like largest is an A5 kind of size, but yeah, you really can make one full-size memory book using this kit, and then you have the knowledge after you've made one of them to apply the die set to other colour combinations and stuff from your stash as well. So that is all of the Craft Perfect, and you have that sheet of acetate in there as well, which is their heavyweight construction acetate, and it does have a film on one side, so when you're working with it, just try to pick at one side of it, and this little film will come off. You see there's a little tiny thin plastic film on there, and you can pull that off. It's just protecting one side of it, so you've got that to keep it nice and clean. The little sample on the back has dried now, so you can see how beautiful that copper colour shows up on a dark colour of cardstock as well. So you've got those two different options, or if you put it on the patterned paper, you'll get a different kind of look as well, because you'll still see the beautiful pattern of the paper, but you'll have that gorgeous shimmer over the top of it too. And I do love splattering these aqua shimmers. They look really nice splattered. You have got to wait a little while for them to dry, but they do look really lovely when you splatter them. So let's have a look at the dies and stamps from this month's kit. I haven't got the sticker to show you, and I have put my dies on one of the Tonic A5 magnetic sheets. So let's go with the die set first, because some of the stamps sort of coordinate with what some of the dies say, so it would make more sense to show you the die set first. So this is the largest page that you can create with this memory book creator die set, and if I measure it for you, so right from the end of the cut line, you know with Tonic memory books they don't have that final end for the pages, they just end like with a cut line so that you can extend it however you want to make your book, whether you want to do the foam tape spine, whether you want to combine this with your spine die that you might already have if you're a memory book fan, or whether you want to use the die that's included to make the holes to actually like bind this together with ribbon or baker's twine or something. You've got the options to do that. So from that little cut line to the end of the sort of scalloped detail on the end here, it is just under 7.5 inches, so it's about 19 centimetres, and then the widest portion of this from cut line to cut line is 5.25 inches, or roughly 13.5 centimetres. So a really decent sized memory book that you can create with this, and as I said, because this is an A5 die set, you know that you can get 2 pages out of one A4 sheet, because you can cut one at the bottom and one at the top, and you still have a little bit of extra room here. If I show you on a sheet, depending on the type of spine that you like to make, you do still have over 1 centimetre, probably nearer 2 centimetres, about 1.75 centimetres left of cardstock there that you could use to create a spine. But there's nothing to say that you have to score here to then create your spine. If you were going to add it into one of the original spines, or do some other different kind of binding mechanism that you like to do, there's nothing to stop you scoring here and making this bit your page, you know, and using that part as part of the spine. So there's lots of options of ways to do it, but if you did need a longer piece of card this way, then you would just have to cut it this direction on your A4 piece, but you would then have all of these extra bits to add as decoration and stuff as well for all of your layers and pages and stuff. But if you wanted to make a smaller book, you do actually have different sized pages that can just be smaller flips and flat pages inside the main book, or you could just make your memory book this size if you wanted to, or you could make your memory book this size if you wanted to. Those are all of the page sizes that we have, so you can go down from all these different sizes. I kind of think this one, I have a feeling I may have said this, but I feel like this one looks a little bit like a tombstone. So if you've got any of the Halloween dies that have been released, you might want to like turn this into like a tombstone Halloween-y kind of memory book as well. That could work quite nicely, and you could just ignore the this sort of way of making a book and stick your own pieces of card on and make a spine this way and have it as a book that's this way up and the spine is on the side as well. So even though Tonic sort of suggest that this end is where the spine should be, there's nothing to say that you have to put your spine there. If you're attaching your own mechanism or you're using a spine die, you can just do it on the other side as well to make it more of a portrait book, and you can do that for any of the sizes going up and down as well. So you get those three that can be your actual book sizes, or the largest could be your book and these could be flips and flaps inside or whatever you want to do, but you also get 2 layers for each, which is really nice. So I'll show you those up here. So for the largest size, you've got a straight edge and then a debossing line that goes around it, and then you have another straight edge, so you can really get that skinny matte layer together. Again, as I was saying before, you can do like the Cosmic Copper pearlescent card and then a patterned paper, or bring in the cream card. You could do a Cosmic Copper in the cream if you want to, but do use some of these smaller dies to gut out your cardstock to make it go further as well. It really does help, you know, add some extra bits and pieces. Like, for example, if you were going to do this matte layer from the Cosmic Copper, cut this matte layer out of the middle, and then this could be a pull-out piece from a pocket that you make later on in the book as well. So you've then got that already, and you don't feel like you've wasted like half a sheet of your pretty cardstock as well. I always do that when I'm making memory books, so I think it's a really good way of making all of your cardstock go further. So the next size down, which is like that tombstone looking one, you have got a wonky stitched main mat for that one, and then you've got a plain edged mat further down, and then for the smallest one, which has got that different sort of fancy edge to it, you've also got the debossing lines on that one. I think there's 2, yeah, there's 2 debossing lines on that one. So you actually get a double deboss line, and then you also get another straight edge layer that you can layer onto that as well. So those are all of the main bookmaking page dies, or flippy flappy sort of dies as well, depending how you make your memory books and what you like to add on to them. Those are all of those kind of dies. Then you also get this die, which is technically like the spine die, and they have done it so it's got notches on here as well. I'm pretty sure, yeah, the full length of this piece is for the largest book, and then the first notches in on either end is where you would line it up on each page to get them in the perfect positions for the next size down, and then the middle ones are where you would line it up to get the perfect position for the smallest book. So they've done that. You might not think you need that, but if you're making multiple pages, the idea with this kind of die is you cut this on each page, and then you would lay the pages on top of each other and the holes would line up, and you'd thread your ribbon up and down to kind of hold it all together. But if you have slightly shifted the die, or not die cut it in exactly the same way, or accidentally flipped the die around, all of your holes aren't going to match. So you want to make sure when you're die cutting this that whichever size you've picked, you're using those notches or the ends of the die to help line it up to make it central. And then on this die it has a score line here, so on this side it has a score line. So if you want to make use of that score line, make sure that the score line is where you want your page to start from what you've cut. But if you don't want to make use of that, you could put it the other way around if you wanted to. But if you are doing the sort of bound kind of mechanism for the book, you do kind of want that score line to be towards your pages. So if you have, for example, cut this page out and this is the open edge, when you place this die on there, you want, this is the score line, you want the score line to be towards the patterned piece like that, and then you would use the top and bottom of that die to line it up on your cut piece, and then that would give you the perfect positioning for your holes and would allow you to cut this perfectly for all of your different pages that you put in. And if you do want smaller pages in there as well, it also gives you that opportunity to get them to be perfectly lined up as well, because you can use those notches for when you're cutting this piece into this piece. You'll use those notches to perfectly get it to line up. If I zoom right in, you can see how the notch there it lines up on both ends. So for the largest one, you're lining up just with the cut line to the end of the metal of this die. To the medium size, you're lining up with that notch, and then the smallest size, you'll line up with the other notch. And you can see that the score line is towards the sort of fancy cut piece that you want to be your page. So the idea is this is sort of where the book will crease and how you will open your pages, and then this is how it will all join together. It will get joined by the holes in each of the pages. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. As I said before, I'm not that great at explaining how to make a memory book, and I tend to make them in weird different ways that I don't think is intended, but it seems to work however I end up making them. So I don't think there really is a right way or a wrong way for making a memory book, but hopefully that just helped anybody who was struggling. And then, because of this lacing kind of mechanism here, you also have an eyelet die. So you can cut, I did mine out of the Cosmic Copper, you can cut out some beautiful cardstock, some little eyelets to go around the holes. They don't necessarily need to be strengthened, but it just gives a pretty kind of element to it. And there are 8 dies here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... Hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you would need to cut this twice if you were making the biggest book, but you would only need 6 of the second cut through of these. So, but you will need them for the back of the book as well. So technically, for making a large book, you'll probably need to cut this 4 times, but I still love that they've given you 8 on one little die so that you don't have to run it through so many times. And if you had the memory book insert creators that were on offer, was it the Vault sale or was it on birthday week? Something recently they were on offer. Those ones all had different eyelets in them. They didn't necessarily have the hexagonal hole in them, but they had different eyelets in them if you wanted other choices and you got hold of those sets. They do have eyelets in as well. So that is like the main how you make your memory book. Then you've also got extra little elements, which I think I explained some of these later on in the video because I had my book to show, but this is basically like a photo corner, but it's a photo corner that you cut into your matte layer that goes on the page, and then you can slide your photo or a piece of ephemera or die cut panel underneath that little piece. I'm pretty sure I do explain that later on. And then in a similar fashion, you also have these 2 little pieces, which they've done one up either way. So you've got one that is curving downwards with the heart up the right way and one that's curving upwards with the heart up the right way, and you can use these again further apart to hold a photograph. You can position them so that the photograph will like clip underneath both of them and stay in, and I do show that later on in the video and explain exactly how you do that kind of thing with those. Then you've got multiple little sort of like tag pieces in here. So if I zoom in again, you've got this little one that you can stick onto anything to make it a little pull tag to pull it out of a pocket. And again, it has the same hexagonal hole, so you can put one of those eyelets around it as well. But you could put this on any size of a piece and just have it as a little indicator to sort of pull it out. But to make that even more obvious, the sort of pull this out of a pocket kind of obvious, you actually have this tiny little die that says pull me, and it debosses into there. It looks fantastic from the Cosmic Copper pearlescent cardstock, but you actually have that in there as well. So any of you who love making your interactive cards, that would also be really useful for those kind of cards that you might want to make as well. Or if you just love adding little bits and pieces into your memory books, then you've got that for using in all sorts of different memory books. Then we have multiple little sort of tag or plaque or banner sort of pieces that these will actually fit around all of the stamped words that I will come to in a minute, but they will fit around those. You've also got this one that will fit around that, and it's got like a pointed, curved pointed kind of end, and then this one here, which if you've had memory books in the past you'll probably recognise what this is by now. Again, it's another kind of like pull tab. So the idea is you cut this, you fold it in half between those 2 circles. You would fold so it would look like that with this piece folded on top and the 2 circles would line up, and then it becomes like a pull tab piece that you can stick onto or either side of a piece of card. And then you can decorate that with like the little pull me as well, or you can put an eyelet around the hole if you want to too. But you've actually got one of those included to use with it. Then if I put them out on here, it might make it easier for me to show you with all of the stamped sentiments as well. You have 3 sentiment dies. So you've got Life is Better with an ellipsis at the end, and then you've got the bubble to go around it. You've got Remember, again with a bubble to go around it, and then you've also got Time Spent as well. Now you might think, okay, Remember's quite a normal one to have by itself, but you might think Life is Better and Time Spent are a bit weird as a sentiment to kind of have, but they coordinate with your stamps. So you can do, there's so many different options, and you actually get all of the options in the 2 different fonts. So there's 2 fonts in here. Is there 2 fonts or 3 fonts? No, there's 2 fonts, but those 2 are different sizes. So you have this kind of font, and then you have a really cursive kind of font as well. So in this font, you have With Family, The Good Times, Those Special Days, With Friends, That Night, With You, and Those Days. So you can do Remember, The Good Times, Life is Better, With Family, Time Spent with Friends. You've got all of those options to sort of mix and match them, but then you also get all of those words. I'm pretty sure they're all the same words. I'll read them out again, but I'm pretty sure they're all the same in the other font. So depending if you're doing something maybe more for a child or a young adult or something, you might want to use this more legible kind of script, but if you're doing something more vintage feeling, you might want to use this more like cursive slanty script. So these ones say Those Days, With You, That Night, The Good Times, With Family, and With Friends. So yeah, they do all say exactly the same thing, but you've got the 2 options of the different fonts, and then you also have a tiny little heart in there as well, and the heart works really nicely for just adding a little embellishment too. And you could even stamp the little heart on some of these little like pull tab bits and stuff as well, and then all of these little stamped words will fit nicely into these little banner pieces as well. So you can have the die, and then you can put the little stamped word in a little banner underneath, and I've shown you that later on in the video when I show you my sample as well. So that is all of the Nuvo, the stamps, the dies, the papers, and I will pass you over to Past Me to show you the memory book that I made and finish off the video as well. So this is the memory book that I've created with this month's kit, and I've done the eyelet kind of binding. I did it a little bit differently though. The middle section, I went along the back but also up and down. I did like a running stitch kind of idea, and then I made it so I ended up with the 2 strings coming out the front in the middle so that I could tie a bow. And then on all of the outside ones, I actually just did like a sort of slip knot. You could definitely tie them if you didn't want them to come undone, or you could put a little bit of glue on there as well to make it so it doesn't come undone. And you might notice it's all like really frayed, and that's because we get this roll of ribbon in the kit, the Windsor check, but you might not want to use this much ribbon you know, just on one memory book. You might want to be able to space this gorgeous ribbon out on a few different memory books. So I cut them in half. You just take your scissors, take a pair of scissors that you have kind of like designated for cutting fabric and stuff, so it cuts nicely. And then you just cut down the length of the ribbon. So one of these pieces, or like 2 of these pieces, is just the same length from one wide piece of ribbon, so it goes a lot further, and then you can use it in its wide form to do like your bows and your little tabs and stuff as well. But I just thought it's a nicer this width of ribbon will fit through these eyelets to actually bind it all together. But if you don't want to use that much of your gorgeous decorative ribbon, baker's twine, or doing this kind of method with stripping them in half and having all those gorgeous frayed pieces is another way of doing it as well. I have done this with baker's twine a lot in the past. I think I did use some of the 3mm satin ribbon at some point as well. But you don't have to use this eyelet method either. You have the eyelet system in the kit. You have that gorgeous die that gives you all of those eyelets, and then you have the die that gives you all of the little hexagons that go over the top of the eyelets to make them look more decorative, and they also work as nice little scatter elements as well. But there's nothing to say that you have to use those holes to bind your book together. You could do my foam tape spine that I love doing, and you could add decorative ribbon and stuff to the top one and stick that on top, but then do all of the rest of them with foam tape, so it looks like you've done the binding but you haven't actually bound the whole book together. You can just cheat it and just do a normal spine, or you know, whatever kind of your favourite spine is to do, and then just put this along the top, so then it looks as though it's got that laced up kind of feel to it. So there's loads of different ways of incorporating this eyelet kind of system. It works really nicely as a detail down a card as well. When I think they were called Insert Creators first came out years ago, there's definitely a video on my channel with a sped up card using them in the way that I'm describing, where I think I'd cut the die into the card, but I also just used a lot of the eyelet pieces sprinkled across the card, and it looks fantastic. So all of these little tiny elements work perfectly for that sort of idea, and actually from far away they look like little nuts as well, so you could do some kind of nut and bolt sort of themed project, maybe even with kit number 59. Those would work really nicely with last month's kit with the cogs and clocks. You could have those little elements within there as well. So there's tons of elements that you can use elsewhere too, but this is the book that I have created, and I've gone to town with a lot of the dream drops as well, because we get the Moroccan flame dream drop in there too. So I've done different techniques with the dream drops. I do only have this memory book sample for this month's video, but I have kind of tried to show you a couple of different ideas with that dream drop throughout the book as well, of just like different patterns you could draw with the dream drop, or how you could apply it. So if you know anything about vellum, you'll know that it really doesn't like having moisture on it. It really likes to curl up if you put any moisture on it. But I wanted to use some vellum within this book, but I wanted to be able to put the dream drops on top of it. So the way I got around it was, this is like a big squish of dream drops, just using one of the Nuvo silicone spatulas. But I did it onto the Easy Clean mat that comes with your glass media mat, or the one that rolls up into a tube. And I just like swiped a couple of times across it, came back in with some extra Nuvo drops on top, let that dry, then you can peel it off your Easy Clean mat and you can stick it onto your vellum, so you can use minimal amount of adhesive. I just put blobs behind where the Nuvo drops were on there, and then you can stick it onto the vellum, so you've got the look of the dream drops spread onto vellum, but you haven't actually put them on there while it's wet, because then the vellum would curl up. And the same idea with these hearts here as well. This one's almost hanging off the edge of the vellum, and this one's on the pattern paper, and if you had done these onto the vellum or onto the pattern paper, there would be a slight difference between them, because the vellum is a slightly slicker kind of surface, and also the vellum would want to curl up whilst this is wet on there, so you might not get that heart shape after it's dried. And then I also did this lovely lattice kind of design also onto the Easy Clean mat, so that I could peel it off and then just stick it on top of the book as well. That kind of thing you definitely could have done straight onto the book, but if you weren't sure you wanted to use it, or you weren't sure how big you wanted it to be, or you didn't think you'd be able to draw it accurately onto the book, you wouldn't want to risk ruining your book, then doing it onto the Easy Clean mat is the perfect way to kind of get around that. So this is how I've done the front cover. I've layered up the pearlescent copper, which I think is called Cosmic Copper, with one of the pattern papers, and then I have also cut one of the smaller pages with the sort of eyelet die into the edge of it from vellum. And then I've actually laced that vellum into the spine, and I was going to leave this loose, but I liked the idea of this dream drop hanging over the edge and then this sentiment hanging over the edge, and I thought it might get a little bit battered if this wasn't actually stuck down, so I just put a little bit of glue behind here and stuck that down. And then I've done Remember Life is Better with Friends as the sort of sentiment on the front of the book. Actually as well, but I've created the covers from the 300 GSM Ivory cardstock, and then a lot of the other pages inside, minus the, I think I did one more thing out of the the smooth cardstock. Yeah, the outside piece to this smaller element I've put inside is also the smooth cardstock, and the rest I've used the textured cardstock. So I feel like the covers, you want them to be really nice and sturdy, but the pages don't have to be quite as sturdy as the covers, so you can get away with your Texture Craft Perfect. Or if you do find you want to use your Texture Craft Perfect but you don't think it's thick enough, then you can do them back to back and make a pocket between them, and then you get that extra thickness in there as well. So turning into the next page, I have brought in a lot of graph paper. I love graph paper, and I thought it goes really nicely with the off-white creamy kind of colour, and it gave me an opportunity to use a lot of the stamps in the same kind of way that when I'm art journaling, I'll use one of my roller date stamps and stamp it multiple impressions with the ink, so you get this kind of strong and then blended sort of look with the different generations of the ink. And I also did these pages to show you these two dies that are in the die set. You have these two little ones here and here. In one of them, the semicircle is you know, that way up, but the heart is upside down, and the other one, the semicircle, is an arch but the heart is up the right way. And these are designed to be like your photo corners, or a placeholder that you can put a certain distance apart, and you can actually slide something inside of them. And funnily enough, there was an exact amount of squares between these two pieces to fit one of these die cuts in that was in there. So it worked out really well using graph paper, because it worked perfectly for getting this spacing right. I didn't have to remeasure it every time for cutting these two pieces on the 4 pages that I've used them on. I could literally just count the squares between where I place the dies, and it works absolutely perfectly. So if you want to, you can remove that, and you could even have something hidden underneath there. You could put photographs on the front and back of these pieces as well. I've also used the vellum to cut out a little tag there using one of those dies, and I've also stapled on a half piece of the ribbon as well, just to tie it into the spine and everything. And I love that you can just slide those in and out. So if you were giving this to somebody and you don't know what sized photographs they're going to want to put in it, or you know what they're going to want to put in it, there's a versatility that they could pull this out and stick something over the top of this, and it's not like a secured in element. They could stick a photograph on 3 sides and create a pocket that then this pulls out of, and you can just ignore that you've got those little tabs in there. So there's lots of ways of kind of adapting this book, and using those kind of pieces gives you that movability, so you can change your mind and swap things around. Like if you had stuck a photograph on here and one on here maybe, but you then felt like they needed to be further back through the book to tell whatever story you're going for, you could swap them out with the ones that are further back in the book as well. So you know, it's really nice doing these kind of non-permanent ways of attaching something into your book. Then I've got more graph paper, but this time I stamped down the side of it and, you know, kind of made a border sort of with the Good Times with Family were the 2 sentiments I used there. Then here I also did another piece like on the front with the holes in, so I've attached that bit of vellum inside of here, and I think this one, it comes out the back as well. So it was actually a piece that I double cut with this shape, but I just cut one set of holes, so it goes in there but then it folds round and comes through the back as well, as a different kind of element again. So we've got this one here, and these are actually the waste pieces from cutting the eyelets for the front and back covers, and I've just snipped the straight portion into little sections and stuck the word remember. Then I've done a little pocket on here, and I've also done another sort of little squish of the dream drops there and put life is better ... and then you can add, you know, whatever else you want to do to complete the sentiment. You could add with friends up here, or you could write something on the tags to be a continuation of life is better. Then again, more graph paper. I've kept the same theme going throughout the book. We've got another vellum page hiding in there as well. And don't forget, if you didn't watch the, what was it called? Was it Cherish Every Moment or something like that from the birthday week, the complete memory book set that was in birthday week? I actually used vellum within an aperture in a fold of a page to create a window through. So you can definitely do that kind of idea as well. And actually, I didn't get round to using the acetate. We get a sheet of acetate in this kit. You can definitely die cut an aperture and put that acetate between either your front layer and a page or 2 pages, depending how you're doing it as well. And you could also do the laminator trick where you laminate your confetti, and then you could have actual like confetti floating in a window as well. So there's lots of ways of adding in like little windows or extra pages like this, like clear pages. You could add in an acetate page if you wanted to. I don't think you'd be able to die cut through the Tonic acetate though, because it's really thick. But if you have heat resistant acetate or thinner acetate, or even the laminating pouch with the sequins and confetti in, you could probably die cut out a page and get the holes to go in there and put them within the binding and have a clear page in there as well with confetti kind of elements. Here I've got 2 pages back to back, so I've just stuck a couple of tags of the patterned paper in there. I've used the little sort of tab die from the vellum, and I've also stapled on some ribbon as well, and we've got the little pull me sign on there too, which you get as a little die in the set. I really like that. I think that's a really clever one. If you love making your interactive cards, like slider cards, or maybe cards that have a gift card hidden within the design or something, that little pull me one is really good for letting the recipient know there's something else in there. Then on the back of this section I've done another pocket with a few little more tags, and that's where that extra little piece of vellum is poked out as well. Then this one here, not only do you get those 2 semicircle dies that you can do that sort of temporarily holding things in place inside your book, you also get the corner one, which is more like a traditional photo corner, where you can do that on all 4 corners, or you can do it on like 2 opposite corners, or depending what you're putting in there, you can also just do it on 1 corner if you want to as well. And I've just slid 3 different pieces in there. So we've got patterned paper, graph paper, with one of those Dream Drop squishes on there again, and I drew a swirl on this one. I did this on the Easy Clean mat again and then put it straight onto here afterwards. I stuck it on, and then I've got another little patterned paper piece there that's got a little torn edge, which kind of mimics the pocket on the previous page where I've torn the graph paper, and then I've just put one of these little like nameplate kind of things on here as well, just to sort of tie everything together with that lovely Cosmic Copper pearlescent card. Here I've put 2 of them back to back again, the large pages this time, and I've done 2 gorgeous large tags coming out of there as well, where I've stapled on some more of the ribbon so everything ties together. And again, I've used another one of those little pull me sentiments too. They work perfectly in pearlescent card and also satin mirror card. They look fantastic in as well if you have any of that in your stash. Then next page we've got another sort of setup like this, just with 1 corner cut into there as well. And the great thing about doing just 1 corner is you can have multiple sized pieces going into that same corner piece, whereas if you had them 2 opposites, you could only really have 1 piece that is that, you know, sort of diagonal, so it would fit in the 2 corners. Then I've done this one. I love this swish that I did here, where you just sort of go swish through your wet drops to make that lovely swishy sort of design. And I've added on a few extra Nuvo drops on there as well, and I've just done remember on that one. And then finally the last 2 pages are like the first 2 pages, where I've done the 2 little semicircle pieces with the hearts and then the bits that come out. And also I've used Life is Better, but I wanted to show how you can curve it. So you can actually, because these fancy sort of die cut words or quotes or phrases are like those really sort of thin ones that are on like a little thin line to hold everything together, you really can like manipulate it and bend it around things, so you can really make them tie into whatever design you've done on a page and try and get everything to sort of flow nicely, or even use it as like an arrow kind of element to draw your eye around the page as well. And then for the back cover I've just done another pattern paper just like the front of the book too. So that is the sample that I created with this month's kit. So I really hope you enjoyed this unboxing video for Tonic Craft Kit 60, which is called Time Spent with Friends, and it is a gorgeous memory book creator die set, and you can create your entire memory book just from this die set, which is fantastic. I love it when Tonic do that, and everything you need is in there, and they've given you enough cardstock to create this book. I haven't said this throughout this video yet, but this book is just using what is in the kit. I think I had one and a little piece of patterned paper left over. I had the acetate sheet left over and maybe other few scraps of some of the cream cardstock, but I've pretty much tried to use like everything that's in there other than adding in some graph paper, but you know, any kind of neutral toned patterned paper that you might have, whether it is graph paper or whether it is a patterned paper that you've got in your stash, can easily like bulk out what you get in this kit to make it go further and create a book with this many pages in, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then those are double back to back, the pages, so technically like 6 pages within there, plus a small little piece that's got another like 3 pages in it as well. So you really can get a lot out of this kit and make a substantial memory book from what's included in the kit as well. And you still have plenty of your Nuvo drops left over, plenty of your ribbon left over, your shimmer pen as well, you've got your glue and your tape runner as well left over too, so you can carry on making lots more bits and pieces with this kit as well. I'm sorry I don't have any cards to show you, but hopefully some of these ideas you might want to like try and adapt them to use on your cards. Maybe even this kind of element, using those 2 pieces to put a gift card inside your card. You know, you could space them out perfectly and slide the gift card in. You can write to and then from underneath it on the inside of your card. So I've kind of given you an idea of showing you how they work, these 2 little dies. And I love that they've done them one up one way, one up the other way, so you can die cut them both at the same time. So you know they're going to be in the perfect position because you're die cutting them both at the same time. And I mean, some of these elements you might be able to transfer to your cards as well. Using these decorative pieces would look fantastic on a card. Doing a background like this, whether it is with these stamps from the set or whether it's other sentiment stamps you have. I love this kind of effect, doing this multi-tonal and multi-generational kind of stamping to create this sort of effect down the side, and definitely any of those dream drop ideas that I've shown you as well, you can definitely carry those into your card making too. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video looking at this memory book that I've created, and you know, having an up close look at the Tonic craft kit as well, and hopefully you're not too disappointed that there's no cards in here to show you too. But I'm sure I've given you enough kind of like inspiration, and I'm presuming a lot of you who are watching are probably seasoned memory book makers, so you know how to make a memory book and everything. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. I will leave a link to the Tonic craft kit below in the description of the video as well, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!